Hi everyone, Peter here from Flow High Performance, and in this video we will be covering what impact lifting technique has on muscle hypertrophy. First and foremost, we need to define what exactly technique means. Technique in the simplest sense refers to how the exercise is performed. The same exercise can be performed in different ways, and the best technique will differ based on your specific goal of the exercise. For this video series, we will be discussing how to lift to maximize hypertrophy. So when lifting to maximize muscle growth, what exactly are we trying to achieve? Well, hypertrophy is a structural adaptation, not a performance outcome. This means that the goal isn't to lift the most amount of weight possible, or for any movements to have transfer to athletic performance. When training for hypertrophy, the goal is to stress the muscle in a way that causes a muscle growth response. So simply put, we want to lift in a way that places maximum stress on the target muscle that we want to train. This allows the target muscle to be maximally stressed so that the adaptations take place where we want them to. This makes sense for isolation lifts where only one muscle is being targeted by the exercise. However, how does this concept apply for compound lifts where multiple muscles are being trained simultaneously? Because multiple muscles are being trained, how do we know which muscles are being stressed the most and which ones aren't? Well, our best option is to perform compound lifts in a way that maximally stresses one specific muscle group that the exercise is best suited to train. This means that we are only really targeting one muscle group, and the other accessory muscles will get some stimulus too, but they won't be maximally stressed. We can then use other exercises later in the training session to maximally stress these accessory muscles. So we should adjust technique for the muscle which is best suited to be trained with the compound lift. For example, back squats are probably best suited to train the quads, so we should squat in a way that places maximum tension in the quads. The glutes, adductors, spinal erectors, and abs will also get some work, but they probably won't be stressed in the same way that the quads are. We can do extra work for these muscles later in the session to get some additional work for them. Another way to think about technique for hypertrophy training is to make the target muscle the limiting factor. So if we theoretically took a set to complete failure, fatigue of the target muscle should be the limiting factor for performance. Other systems or muscles shouldn't limit performance before the target muscle we are trying to train. This will unnecessarily train other muscles or other systems without providing the hypertrophy stimulus we want for the target muscle. This also induces additional fatigue for minimal stimulus. This brings us to the next point about why technique matters, which is the stimulus and fatigue concept. Every exercise we perform ultimately provides a hypertrophic stimulus and also induces fatigue. This fatigue is both local, meaning that it taxes the joints involved, and also systemic, meaning it induces fatigue to the entire organism. There is ultimately a limit as to how much volume we can perform because there is only so much fatigue each individual can handle before we develop joint pain or can no longer recover from a systemic perspective. So the goal is to provide the best hypertrophic stimulus to each muscle group with the lowest joint and systemic fatigue cost. So with the limited volume we can handle in a given training program, we want to maximize our hypertrophic response. This is where technique comes into play. Lifting technique can influence both the hypertrophic stimulus of each exercise and the fatigue it generates. So when lifting for hypertrophy, we are trying to achieve the best stimulus for the target muscle while minimizing joint stress and systemic fatigue. The details of how this can be achieved will be covered in the rest of this video series. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you got something out of this video. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already.